Okay. Okay, I think we're actually live this time. I didn't get kicked off. Oh, goodness, I'm so sorry about that. I know we had a couple people that were in here waiting for the stream to go live, and then it crashed on me. I do apologize. Da, 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 da. Oh, goodness. Come on, YouTube, you can do it. Hello! Hey! Welcome, you guys. So sorry if anybody was in here previously and it crashed on me. So, and I know there was a couple questions that people had that were being posted. So again, I'm so sorry. If you want to go ahead and repost those, I'll make sure to get to them. How is everybody doing? Happy Sunday, by the way. Hi. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, I've missed this so much. Hello, Berku. Hello, Alex. Hello, Christine. Jagadi, John, Nadine, Karen, Tracy. Yay. Oh my goodness. Hello. Hello. Happy Sunday, you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, I'm so excited to dive in. Yay. I am so excited. And it's been a while. Oh my gosh. The last few weeks have been incredible and difficult to squeeze in time for a live Q&A. And I've missed them, and I am so excited. I'm just going to give it a minute. Oh, by the way, can everyone hear me and see me okay? Should probably clarify that first. Hello, Maria. Hello, Ashley. Yes? Okay. Okay, good. Just wanting to confirm that first. All right. So I'm just going to give it another maybe 30 seconds or a minute or so, and then we'll dive into some questions and some Q&As. Again, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out this Sunday. I hope you are having a wonderful morning or afternoon or evening, wherever in the world you may be. God, I've really missed this. Good stuff. And we've already got the questions rolling in. Awesome. Awesome. Well, settings look good. I think everything's looking good on my end. You guys can hear me okay? So I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to try to get to all the questions, or at least as many as I can. If I do miss your question, I do sincerely apologize. Sometimes it can get kind of crazy. I've enabled slow mode to try to help keep up with everything, but I'm going to try to get to as many as I possibly can today. And without further ado, let me see. Why is my scrolling not want to work? I'm so glad we're having this chat today, too. I am so glad to be here. Roberta has a really good question. How did you revise over 200 events in such a short period of time? Did you do SATs for each event? Please share your process. That is an awesome question. So no, I did not do, I did not go into like a deep SATs for every single one of those. And it was, I wouldn't say it was exactly a short period of time. I mean, this was over the course of a couple of months. And I was in a position at the time, because what I used to do for a living, being in film and television, I had usually between Thanksgiving and New Year's, you have a good chunk of time off in that time. And even leading up before, I had a chunk of time that I was taking off and using that as sort of, well, I had started earlier than that, but I dedicated a set amount of time where I didn't have very many other obligations. So I was very fortunate to be able to do that. But it still took, some time. But to answer the second part of that question, no, the ones, for the events and the memories that I felt had a very deep impact on me, the ones that I really felt hurt me or impressed something that was very undesirable or something that formed a core limiting belief, those were the ones that I would go into SATs and really, I guess, take more time with. But there were some that I would just sort of like either revise in that moment and sort of keep rejecting that old story. And so I'm going to make a video kind of covering revision a little bit more because there's a couple different ways that you can apply revision. It's not always that you have to go into a deep SATs state, though, again, I can cover this topic in a lot more detail in a future video, but needless to say, yes, it did take some time, but I would do it over and over again. I would do it 1,000 times over again. That was such an important part of my journey and such an important part of my healing. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. And Ashley Marie, okay, sorry, your question was split up into two here. Ashley's question is, I did intensive visualizing and inner conversations for 2 weeks and now can't even make myself want my desire. When I think about it, it feels like there's nothing I want to do about it. No movement that I can see yet, though. Is this normal? That's a really great question. And in short, yes. Yes, that is normal. I know it may feel confusing or sometimes even alarming if we notice that we don't have that intense desire to keep doing the techniques or going about our routine. But what you're describing is normal. And typically, once something has been impressed, you're not going to feel that need to keep doing SATs or to keep doing whatever you've been doing, to keep affirming or whatever it might have been. It's essentially a state of, I've already got it, it's already done. And it's okay if there hasn't been any movement. That's what comes to follow. That doesn't come before. So yes, it is normal. No, it is not anything bad. And that typically means that you've entered into a sort of Sabbath state, or you've entered into a state where you feel it's already done. Because when it feels like it's done, it feels like there's no work left to do, if that makes sense. So yeah, I would not be alarmed. Alex has an awesome question. Missy, what do you think about revising the bridge of incidents if you don't like how the manifestation unfolded? I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, revision is such an incredible tool because it really is there for whatever we might need it. So if there was something that happened or things unfolded in a way that were not ideal, you can absolutely revise it. That's what it is there for. 100%. Mickey asked the question, are you still going to post the video on revision about death or shifting to a reality where that person is alive? Yes. So the reason that it's taken a bit of time for that video is because when I was filming it, I realized that it's going to be incredibly helpful to sort of make sure that a few things are in context and make sure a few things are understood first. Because when it comes to the topic of death, I mean, first off, it's a very somber topic. It's one that, not a whole lot of people really talk about it or dive into, but there's some things to know and understand first. And so I had to shoot a separate video as sort of a, what's the word for it? I had to shoot a separate video to sort of make sure that, there were certain things that were understood first. So kind of a video more on the topic of death in general, because that's an important thing to understand before we start really diving into revision of death and visiting loved ones after they've passed and things like that. So that's why it's taken a bit of time. But yes, I am still going to release those videos. First I'm going to release the video talking more about the topic of death. And then that one is going to sort of precede the video about revision. So I hope that makes sense. And I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry. I know it's taking a little bit of time. Let's see. Hello, LJ. Hello. Sorry, my cursor, my mouse died, so I have to do the laptop scrolly thing. So it takes a second to scroll. Sorry, guys. Jessica had a good question. Busy at the moment, but if you get to mine, I remember when you said it took you 3 years to get your SP back. Why did it take so long? Another awesome question. So that 3-year period was the time between when we broke up for the second time and the time that we got back together. I wasn't in that period of time trying to manifest him back for that whole duration. In fact, it was a couple months after the second breakup, I sort of let go. I sort of let the whole thing go. I was in a very defeated place. I was feeling very dejected and just very tired. And I felt best to try to move on. And so a year period after that was sort of me going on with my life. Then I found Neville Goddard. It was about a year after the second breakup that I found Neville and started to put his teachings into practice, testing the law, sort of building my faith. And it still wasn't at that time in my mind to manifest my SP back. I was just more studying the law in general, trying to learn as much as I can about it and trying to put it to the test. And a lot of that was, building my faith, building my trust and things like that. So I'd say from the time that I actually started to focus on manifesting SP to the time that he came back was probably about 9 or so months, 8 or 9 months, if I had to. Gosh, it's been a while, so I think it was about 8 or 9 months. But in that time, I was not applying it correctly. So there was a lot of things that I was missing. I was missing the mark in a lot of ways. But I know I'm getting on a tangent here. Long story short, it wasn't that I was trying to manifest for that entire 3-year period of time. I hope that makes sense. Things have changed for the better. Good. Lan has a really good question. How do we determine what is slowing our manifestations down? I feel like I've been manifesting new friends for forever. Awesome question. If you want to determine what may be at play or what is holding you back from that wish fulfilled or seeing your manifestation come to pass, the best thing that we can do, the only thing that we can do, is self-observation and really paying attention to the internal dialogue and the internal conversations, the mood, the feeling, all of the things that you're experiencing in your day-to-day, and really being mindful. And I've talked a lot about this, especially as of late, because this is something that gets so overlooked, so overlooked, because we may not always know and we might not be conscious of the things that we might be doing or saying that is sort of, in a sense, self-sabotaging. We may not know the dominant state that we're dwelling in if we're not observing ourselves. We might think that we're living in the end. We might think that we're doing all the things right, but if you're spending an hour or so a day doing techniques and feeling that wish fulfilled, but the rest of the time you're living in that old feedback loop. Yeah. So self-observation, really take the time and really check in with yourself and note where you are and where you're dwelling in consciousness in your day-to-day. LJ, absolutely. Absolutely. I will send you an email after I get off this live stream. Sure, sure. Couple of months seem short for so many. I know. I know. It truly can be a journey. It truly is a journey, I should say. Oh, Soul Evans. Not a question, but I wanted to say thank you. Watching your videos has brought a stillness of mind and clarity of self. I know I brought your videos into my awareness, but thank you nonetheless. You are so sweet. Thank you. And you are so welcome. Sincerely. That made my day. I know. I know. Most of us have a lot of things that could go for revising, for sure. And I know it can seem intimidating when it feels like there's a lot of things that we want to revise or need to revise, but we just take it one at a time. And again, I'm going to release another video talking about revision. I know it can seem very overwhelming and daunting, but I'm telling you guys, I'm going to keep telling you guys, revision will change the game for you, period. David asks, is our godhood limited by the system and matrix we're in? We say we're gods, and all I see is people manifesting SPs, jobs, coffees, etc. I see this and ask myself, is this the best God can do? That is an amazing question. And, one thing that certainly happened to me, and something that certainly happened to a number of people, is really testing and seeing just what is possible, to what extent are things truly possible, really pushing the boundaries of what we might think is possible and the limitations of man, because man is incredibly limited, right? In our at wearing our garment, so to speak, living as man, we have a lot of limitations and a lot of what we believe is possible and not possible. You're going to really begin to test those boundaries the more the more and longer that you're on this journey. Oh my gosh! Ah! AG has an amazing update, guys. I wanted to, I wanted to update you. I manifested my SP after 4 months. Since we spoke last, the third party is gone. We are officially back together and doing better than ever. Forever grateful to you. Oh, I love it. Congratulations, AG. Yes. Girl, I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. Oh, thank you, Ellie Cat. Hey, Dolly. No, you're good. You're right on time. All good. I've been doing awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you've been doing well, and thank you for being here. Aw. Norku asks, I cannot get over double-mindedness and being a victim. It's been difficult to focus on the best version of my SP, but it is easy to think of a totally new person. Should I give up on my SP? Whew. So I actually just recorded a video talking about this very topic. If it feels like it has been an incredibly challenging time, if it feels like this has been so much of a struggle, I would change the focus. I would change the focus, start focusing on you. A lot of times, the reason that we struggle is because we put so much of our effort trying to force a change to the outside, specifically in regards to our specific person. And that's not the aim here. That's not ultimately the aim. There's no one to change but self. And right now, I think the very best thing that could possibly be doing is focusing on being and becoming and living as that very best version of self. Focus on manifesting the state of consciousness that you want to embody and that you want to occupy and that you want to live by. Because all of our manifestations come from the state. And when we get too caught up in the thing itself, in that specific person or in that money or whatever it might be, it's easy to get hung up, it's easy to get stuck in cycles, it's easy to get burned out, especially if there's still a lot of that old story that we cannot or have not been able to revise, we have not been able to bury, and all of that. I had to do the same thing. I got to a point where I had to literally turn the focus back on me and not make it about SP anymore. I really had to build myself and become the very best version that I possibly could be and that I always wanted to be before I could turn my attention back to my specific person. So that goes for anybody here that is trying to manifest an SP. I know it gets thrown around a lot. I know the word self-concept has become a buzzword, but this is about becoming. This is not about trying to get something and trying to force a change on the outside. That is the fastest way to burn out. So focus on becoming the best version of you for the sake of you. Diamond B, can I use imagining my scene every day as a tool to help me stay in my state? Absolutely. Absolutely. That is what the imagination is for. The imagination is to move into and ultimately maintain a state. And when we're talking about conscious manifestation, especially, that's how we do it anyways, but especially when it comes to conscious manifestation, we want to keep in imagination that wish fulfilled and keep ourselves in that state of the wish fulfilled as much and as often as possible. So yes. Ellie Cat, how do you let go when manifesting an SP? How do you not become obsessed with the manifestation? Good question. It's very easy to fall into that because of how strong our desire is for our specific person. Well, when it comes to letting go, that is something that comes naturally. When we have maintained that desired state, when we have fully saturated and impressed subconsciously that desire, that state of the wish fulfilled, letting go of that old story will come naturally to us. It isn't something I've found we can really do by force. So it is something that through imagination we begin to overcome as we become more and more saturated and familiar with that desired state. It's going to come more naturally and effortlessly for you. Rainy asks, what to do when people say the opposite of what I want / am manifesting. They say he won't come back, he doesn't want this, he wants somebody else, all of which are opposite of what I am manifesting. Revision. Revision and rejection of that old state. So when it comes to the 3D, when it comes to what other people are saying, when it comes to anything that comes up that is unwanted and undesired, reject it. Do not accept it. The 3D is just an out picturing anyways. It's just feedback. It's just a shadow anyways. So what do? We revise it. We reject it. We don't accept it. It's always a good idea to use the 3D as feedback because it's telling us the state that we've been embodying and that we've been occupying. So if you're hearing all of these things that other people are saying about your SP, it's a good indication of the things that maybe you still are believing and the assumptions that you may be hanging on to. But, regardless, do not accept it. We do not we do not accept in the 3D that which is unwanted. And that is what revision is for. Hello Kitty asks, do you have to believe in your affirmations while in a mental diet? So, I know that there's a lot of debate around this topic in the manifestation community, uh, especially in regards to the law of assumption about do we need to believe our affirmations? And it's become quite a heated debate. And so, affirmations can be an incredibly powerful tool, and they are a very valuable tool. And there's a reason that they are so popular. However, it's always helped best when finding affirmations that do resonate with us. Affirmations that, we may not fully subscribe to, but they resonate as something that is possible. They resonate as something that is doable. I found that if we try to repeat affirmations that we have a lot of resistance to, that can be especially difficult to do. So I would try to find affirmations and try to word them in a way that are more resonating, that do seem to come more naturally and to sit more naturally with you. And if you're curious about more about what that means, watch the video that I made about affirmations. You just type it in my search bar. Um, that would help to probably clear it up a little bit. And just to be clear, when we're talking about mental diet, affirmations, I mean, conscious affirmations, telling yourself affirmations isn't what we mean by mental diet. Mental diet is being mindful and aware of the inner talking. It's being mindful and aware of our feeling, our mood, the inner dialogue in our day to day. It's all of the things that are going on with us internally and being mindful of that. So I just wanted to make that clarity and distinction because I know a mental diet means a lot of different things now with everybody talking about it. But yeah, I would use and find affirmations that truly resonate with you. And if that means going a bit more general, anything like that, that is going to be very helpful. Jana has a question. I love your little icon, by the way. I love your little avatar. It's so cute. Jana says, "Hey Missy, I was in the wrong spot. Sorry, it's broken up. I got very clear and focused for about 6 weeks. I did everything one should. Not only did I see no movement, but I feel like things got worse. I know there's no promise of time, but it's hard to keep going when you've seen nothing at all. How do you keep the motivation up when this happens? I've hurt my own feelings now and took a break from SP and don't know how to start over again, let alone how to keep it up. Patience is not my strong suit, but even a hint of something would make me content." Yeah, no. I know patience was not my strong suit either. And I know how incredibly frustrating it can be when it feels like we're not seeing any movement, and I know it would be easier if we could get some hint or some sign or something that comes up that kind of pushes us to keep going, but unfortunately, that's not how the law works. Signs follow, they do not come beforehand, and that means that signs follow after we have occupied that state for long enough, after we have lived in that state of the wish fulfilled long enough. And I know that it is incredibly difficult, especially when we see no movement, especially when it feels like nothing is happening. But I would say, as far as motivation goes and motivation to keep going, it helps to sort of change the focus and maybe change what how you're trying to approach this, because from the description, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like a very it sounds like this is very focused on trying to get SP. And I mean, yes, there's a contradiction there, because of course we want to get our SP, but the focus needs to be about becoming that version of you with your SP. And it is about maintaining that state until it comes to pass. And unfortunately, we do not know that length of time. Every seed has its appointed hour, as Neville would say. So it can be very discouraging. But what really helped me, and what really helped me to continue when I had moments of doubt or frustration, was I wanted to break the cycle of the patterns and habits that I knew that I was repeating. I wanted to do it for me. It got to a point where this wasn't even about my SP anymore. Again, it was about wanting the change for me. I was sick of living in all of those states of despair and feelings of regret, feelings of abandonment, feelings of rejection. I did not want to be that person anymore. And when that became my focus, it became much easier to sustain. It became much easier to keep going. Now, of course, it was still a challenge at time, because we are such creatures of habit, and it is so easy to fall back into those old habits. And it can be so discouraging when we don't see the things that we want show up right away, or, in a couple of weeks, or anything like that. But if we're talking about the long game here, if we're talking about this is for the rest of your life, this is nothing. A couple of weeks, even a couple of months to radically change your life and everything in it is nothing. So sometimes we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because we have two options, because we are always manifesting, either consciously or unconsciously. We can choose to really focus on ourselves and building our faith in the law and trust in the law, so we can really begin to step into that shoes of conscious creator, or we can go back to creating things unconsciously and living in those old patterns. And when you look at it like that, the motivation becomes much easier to step into. But do keep going. If nobody else don't do it for SP, do it for you. Dawn asks a really good question. Is it possible to manifest something without emotion? So, yes. Yes, it is. Now, emotions can have a very big impact on impression. If we have a strong negative emotion, or even a strong positive emotion to something, it is much more easily impressed. However, when we're talking about feeling, when we're talking about the feeling of the state of the wish fulfilled, we're not talking about emotion. That's the wrong type of feeling. I think a better way to word it would be knowing is the secret. Knowing that it's done, like being that version of you, just as naturally and effortlessly as I know that I have brown hair, and that I know that the sky is blue, and that I know that the sun's coming up tomorrow. These are fact. These are knowing. I don't have any emotion when I think about these things. There's nothing that really strikes me at the heart, but I know it to be true. So it is that feeling or that knowing of something that comes naturally, and you don't have any pushback or resistance to it. Those are the things that manifest effortlessly for us. So do you need to have emotion to manifest something? No. No, but we do want to be mindful of our emotions, because, I mean, our moods do play factors in what is impressed, and sort of what keeps perpetuating, if that makes sense. But it's not the be all end all. And if we're trying to focus on invoking a strong emotion, it can feel very challenging to do so. I hope that makes sense. John has a good question. Would you recommend no contact when manifesting an SP? It seems like contacting them would be messing with the middle. So I know a lot of people, a lot of teachers would say, don't reach out to SP, don't contact SP. And I think to a degree, it's really where you feel you are. It's what you feel. If you feel like contacting them or reaching out to them is, if you feel anxious and scared to do so, if it feels like you are sort of hanging by a thread and you're worried about how they're going to respond and how they're going to act and all of these things, then I would refrain, right? I personally made the conscious decision to not have contact with my SP while I was working on myself, while I was really focusing on changing myself. Um, for those reasons, I did not want to get upset. I did not want to be triggered. I did not want to fall back into anything that might be an old habit or an old pattern. That said, I'm not saying that you can't and that terrible things are going to happen if you do. It really depends on where you feel you are and being honest with yourself. Like, if you and SP are on great terms and you feel very confident that it's going to be a lovely exchange and you want to do so, you're God. You can do it. I'm not here to tell you what you can and cannot do. I will say, though, just be mindful of the state that you are dwelling in and what comes to mind when thinking about reaching out to SP. If it's fear and anxiety or sadness or anger, I would refrain. Malin, I always seem to manifest the things that I don't want. What I do wish to happen don't seem to happen. Why is that? Well, I mean, in short, it's because the beliefs and assumptions are in contrast with what you desire. It- what you're believing and what you're entertaining and what you're focused on is not the wish fulfilled. Um, yeah, that's the short version. SM asks, "Can I manifest marriage?" Absolutely, you can manifest anything, 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 anything. How to get rid of guilt, especially if I feel it may block my manifestation when I feel I do not deserve my SP. Well, I would focus on moving out of that state of guilt. I would get to the root of that. So ask yourself why you are not deserving, why you do not feel deserving. And it's going to boil down to a belief that you're carrying. It's an assumption that you're carrying. But the thing about beliefs and assumptions is they're not true. They're not facts. We don't have to keep accepting them, right? And we don't want to keep accepting them. If we don't feel deserving of SP, why? If it's anything based in the old story, discard all that. None of that matters. The old story doesn't matter, ever, ever. Whatever happened, whatever might be going on to this day, does not matter. So, really just start playing with the idea of best self in imagination. Just start playing with the conceptions of that person and who that person is. Start fleshing out that person in imagination. What would they be? What would they be like? What are some of the interests? What do they look like? How do they feel? What does it feel like as that version of you that is deserving, that is loved, that is cherished, and that doesn't have guilt? Guilt is a tricky thing and something that we want to be mindful of, because to feel that guilt is only going to reinfect itself. It will not serve you, is what I'm saying. So really begin to spend as much time in imagination being that version of you that is deserving, because you are. Because you are. My SP was showing up as a commitment phobe and scared of marriage. After a year, I said I love you, and he freaked out and broke up with me. What do I do? First and foremost, revise that. First and foremost, erase all of that. All of that. Secondly, really see what was what were the things that was keeping that old story alive. Are you holding on to the beliefs and assumptions that men are commitment phobes and that they won't commit, that they don't like to get married? I know that seems to be a very common theme in these days of men being scared to commit or scared of marriage. Is that something that you're holding on to? Is that something that you're subscribing to? It's really getting an idea of what we are believing and assuming as true. And it's what we are telling ourselves, and that story that we are subscribed to and that we will not break up from. We must break up with that old story, guys. We got to. Doesn't matter what happened. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Reject all of that. So, first and foremost, revise what happened. Secondly, you know, see if there's things that you are possibly subscribing to unknowingly. A lot of the times we're not aware that we're doing this. But, that being the case, instead, start moving into and living in that state of course, men commit. Of course, there are men that married. Like, men love to commit and get married, and my partner loves to commit and get married to me. Start really building that place. Go and prepare that place in imagination. If LOA people believe thoughts manifest by themselves without feeling, wouldn't that be the case in law of assumption, since whatever you assume to be becomes true? If LOA people believe thoughts manifest by themselves. So again, feeling does not mean emotion. When we're talking about feeling is the secret, we're not talking about emotion. So yes, in the case of the law of assumption, it is whatever you assume to be is going to be in your reality. Hence the name, the law of assumption. Yeah, absolutely. Love from Germany. Hello, hello. Another update. Oh, this is another amazing update, you guys. I just wanted to update you. After our call on Tuesday, he sent me a message after being ghosted for 3 months. The call with you opened my eyes on different places. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations. Where would you begin again? Oh, Tracy, I'm so sorry. Where to start over again? I'm feeling lost and so scattered. Yeah, it can feel, and I've been in that place many times where I wanted to give up. I wanted to just throw in the towel. Um, it's been a long journey knowing and understanding manifestation, or really trying to get the hang of this and trying to understand this. I definitely had moments where I just wanted to give up, and I had to take breaks, and I had to just clear my head and get my head right. Because it's easy to get obsessed, it's easy to get spiraled, it's easy to burn out. And that's something that we do always want to be mindful of, that first and foremost, we are taking care of ourselves. And that, and this is why, always putting ourselves first. And as far as beginning again, I mean, always baby steps. We don't have to jump right back to where we were, going guns blazing or going all in on it. Even if it's just in your day to day, taking 5 minutes to try to just sit and, you know, in that silence, observe. Just observe. Just observing your thoughts, just observing the feelings and seeing what comes up for you. It's maybe taking something smaller, something not as significant and revising it, or playing with the law, like just approaching it from a place that doesn't have as much attachment or doesn't have as much of that pressure or urgency, if that makes sense. But just for most importantly, it's just taking it one beat at a time and really being gentle with yourself, and just take moments where you can, when you can, to just do some observation and see about just playing with the law, just for the sake of playing with it, nothing else. Oh my gosh, Lindsay, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. Yay. Self-concept is so important when manifesting SP. Yes, I mean, yes. Self-concept is everything, period. But when manifesting an SP too, absolutely. A week before we're supposed to move him out here, third party who I know I manifested with my insecurities says she's pregnant and feels he may have to be with her. And he feels he may have to be with her. I know I created this, but it's hard not to panic. I know. I know. Because of our attachment to the 3D, it feels incredibly difficult not to panic at times. And especially when we get very big news, if we feel that we're getting news that is sort of like earth moving news, it's especially difficult. And I will say this, in moments like those, first and foremost, do not try to suppress anything. If you need to have a moment where you just let yourself freak out, then do so. If you need to cry, if you need to let yourself just get it out, then do so. We can always come and revise it later. We can always change that after the fact. But one thing that I've noticed, especially when it comes to things in the 3D that really surprise us, we try to we try to just shove them down because we're scared of them. And it's understandable, but whatever the emotion, whatever the feeling, like let it pass through you. Let it come and let it go, because you can always revise it later. And then it is like you just did. It's becoming aware of how this was manifested, how this was created. In this example, third party came from insecurities, whether it was insecurities about self, whether it was insecurities about you and him, or both. But, start getting clarity on what created the circumstance, which you already started to do, right? And from there, as you become more clear on how things unfolded the way that they did, you know that ultimately you can change them, and you know how to go about changing them. And that's the biggest thing, guys. No matter what shows up in the 3D, and I know this is something that we need to unlearn because of how ingrained it is in us, but whatever shows up in the 3D can be changed. It is never ever the case that something happens and it's final. Ever. Ever. So if nothing else, we can take stance in that. We can take solstice in that, because when it feels like something massive like that comes out of the blue, it's so easy to get sucked up into that old state and very much attached to that old state and all the insecurities that created it in the first place. So know and understand that no matter what is showing up, It does not matter. You can change it. That is the beauty of all of this. That is truly your power. That is your God given power. So know that always. Keep that with you always, no matter what. And if you need to have a cry, if you need to break down, if you need to lose your shit, do so. Get it out, get it off. You will feel better afterwards, and you can always come back and revise it later. Always come back and revise it later. But then start to see the clarity of what happened and how it unfolded so that you know what you need to do to undo it. And you can always undo it. Always. Oh, thank you, Marie. Hi, Missy. I would love to see you with your SP. Your story about the two of you is so heartwarming. I will get him on camera one of these days. One of these days. He is a shy boy, but absolutely. Absolutely. I'll post pictures in the Facebook group in the meantime. How about that? Jay Spin asks a really good question. I'm completely Hi, Missy. I'm completely giving up. Not in hopes to manifest because of that. I'm done, but still curious. Do you think giving up will cause manifestation to come to pass? So, I mean, there's a lot of cases where that does happen. There's a lot of cases where as soon as we give up trying to manifest, that's when it manifests. And that has to do with detaching from that state of lack, detaching from that state of focusing on what we don't want, um, and focusing on the wanting and the needing of that thing. That said, it's not it's not always the easiest and best thing to do as far as like giving up. Now, if you feel that you are in a place where you need to step away, totally understand, and that is totally fine. I think everyone has been there at some point or another. I know I certainly have. But will it cause the manifestation come to pass? That I cannot say for certain. There's there's a lot of factors that will depend. Um, are there cases where that happens? Absolutely. But ultimately, that has to do with detaching or letting go of that old state and that old story and all of the things that we were manifesting from the place of what we don't want, stemming from fears and insecurities and doubts and all of that fun stuff. So, can it happen? Absolutely. Will it happen? That is not to say. You have a wonderful day too, Rainy. How often should we be visualizing to get into the state of contentment and ease with our manifestations? As much as you possibly can. As, I mean, within reason. Obviously, we have jobs, we have things that we have to do in our day to day. But I mean, this is something that we're already kind of doing anyways. Like, if you think about when we get lost in sort of daydreams or when we're driving aimlessly or doing aimless tasks, it's easy to get sort of in our head about things. It's typically things that we don't want. But how often should we be visualizing to get into the state of contentment and ease with our manifestation? I mean, the aim and the goal is to live in that state in imagination as much as possible, as long as possible, until it becomes subconscious to do so, until we are naturally occupying that state and it becomes our habitual nature. I mean, that's what we do, anyways. We are creatures of our nature, we are creatures of habit, and the way to change those habits is through imagination. Question from the Goat Girl. I love your name. I love goats. As everyone thing and circumstance is us pushed out, anything we've unconsciously created, we can consciously recreate, right? Yes. Absolutely right. Anything that we've created unconsciously or not, we can absolutely recreate it. And that is the wonder of this, and that is the power behind this, is that it truly does not matter what happened, what was said, what was done in the past, none of that matters. If we created it, we can undo it, we can change it, we can mold it differently. Absolutely. I love this so much. You guys are awesome. Great questions today, by the way. All right, I've got time for maybe one or two more. So seriously, I could sit here and do this all day. Let's see. I love these questions too. They're amazing. Why do we still receive our manifestations even after we spiral? Why do we still relieve our manifestations even after spiral? If you spiral but you catch yourself, you move yourself back, it's not going to matter. And that's why I say if we have a reaction, if we do spiral, if something happens, it is not the be all end all, and it's not going to sabotage things beyond repair. Now, do we want to be spiraling all the time? Do we want to be constantly in that state of feeling that lack and upset and that hurt? No. Clearly no. But just because you may have an incident does not mean that if you fell out of that state for a moment, you can get up and get right back into that state. So no matter what, if you are persistent in living in that imaginal state, the state of the wish fulfilled, if you persist, you will get there. That will harden into a fact. You will see it in your 3D. It has to, because it is law. It is the law. You are so sweet too. Break the old story and it dies no matter what happened. Yes. Yes. Aw. The whiz boy. Hi, Missy. My mom is 82 and she adores you. Any advice for her to stay optimistic during certain health concerns when she is in so much pain? She is new to manifesting. Say hello, Barbara. Hello, Barbara. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. When I was dealing with chronic pain myself, that seemed very, very difficult to do, especially when we're in pain, and especially, I mean, physical or mental, both are agonizing, and it can be extremely difficult to focus on anything else in those moments. So, I would say in those moments where the pain feels debilitating, for me, I all I could do in those moments was curl up in the fetal position and just say to myself, I am safe. I am safe. I'm okay. I am safe. Over and over. Like, I literally could not do anything else in those moments. But when the pain subsided for a bit, when I had those pockets of relief for a moment, I would really focus in those moments, take advantage of those moments to fixate on the state of health and really try to cement the state of health and energy and feeling rejuvenated. I made a video talking about this, um, changing health and physical appearance, but I do talk about what I did and what I went through with my autoimmune disorder and how to overcome it. But mainly, taking advantage of those moments where we may have those bouts of relief and those bouts where it's not as bad. And definitely check out that video where I go much more into detail about that. But much, much blessing and love to you and your mom. Hello, Barbara. You take care always. Hey, good for you to be here. All right, you guys. Oh, much, much, much love. I used to have 2 pet goats. I want 2 pet goats. I'm actually working on that as I speak, getting 2 goats. I already have the names picked out. It's gonna be Baba and O'Reilly. If anyone gets that reference, you get a lot of points. All right. Last question, you guys, and then I do unfortunately have to get going for now. You guys are the sweetest. Oh my god. I oh my god. What are the effects of revising the news in the 3D? Can it erase the facts or just the effects of the news? Thank you. Awesome question. And we should be revising anything that comes up. And that's why I do try to be particularly mindful of the news content and just any content that I consume for that reason, because these are all things that are going to have some sort of, especially anything that has any kind of effect or we have a strong reaction to. But revising the news, it is twofold. It is actually both what you said. It helps to, you know, remove the effects that it has on us. So, if we had a strong negative reaction to the news, revising it will help bring us some peace and some relief from that. But it can also change that news and those news, whatever you're getting from it, whatever is happening on it, if that makes sense. I'm telling you guys, revision is a powerful tool, and it will amaze and shock you of what we are capable of doing with it. Truly, it's bizarre because we always thought of the past as something that is concrete, but that is the furthest thing from the truth. And you'll see that this to be true on the macro and the micro level. So play around with it. I will show pictures. I will post pictures when I get my goats. Tracy, yes, you got it. The Who. Oh my god, you guys, I literally could spend all day with you. Unfortunately, I do have to get going. Uh, I really don't want to though. I really don't want to though. Oh, much love to all of you guys. Sincerely, thank you so much for spending time with me on this beautiful Sunday. Much, much, much love to all of you. Sincerely, no matter where you are, no matter what you may have going on, I wish you all the strength and love and blessings in the world. I will make sure to also be here. Will not be going as long with a gap in between going forward. So take care, you guys. Amazing questions today. Much love to every single one of you. And until next time, take care. Bye.